Welcome, everyone, to the Saddle Road Press first Sunday reading with George Ella Lyon and Diane Gilliam. Diane Gilliam is the author of 4 poetry collections, including Kettle Bottom and Dreadful Wind and Rain. Her work has earned numerous awards, including the Gift of Freedom for the Room of Her Own Foundation. She lives and writes in Akron, Ohio. Linney Stepp, her first novel, is set in early 20th century Eastern Kentucky, a generation before the events in Kettle Bottom. 16-year-old Linney Stepp is sent to live with relatives in exchange for a boy cousin who can help her father work the farm. But living with the Chandlers, especially Aunt Hesty, grandmother and wise woman, Linney gradually learns how to say no to what would harm her, how to ask what she needs to ask, and say what she needs to say. George Ella Lyon writes in multiple genres for readers of all ages. She has published 5 poetry collections, a novel and memoir for adults, novels and poetry for young people, and 31 picture books. Her poem, Where I'm From, has gone around the world as a writing model. Her work has won numerous awards. She was the Kentucky Poet Laureate in 2015 and 2016, and was recently inducted into the Kentucky Writers Hall of Fame. In Don't You Remember, Lyon remembers a childhood experience in which she seemed to have uncovered another lifetime. She enters upon a decades-long search for the real Jane Grace. Her pilgrimage takes her back to the town where the memories surfaced, through libraries and archives, into past life therapy, and eventually to Wales. As she follows the spiraling threads further into this mystery and calls upon her deepest insights into the creative process, Lyon leads the reader to encounter the greater mystery of who and how we are. So take it away, folks.
I'm going to read first. I'm going to read a section from near the middle of Linney's story. It's a moment when they're coming to the end of the farming season, at which time it seems like Robbie will no longer be needed for helping Linney's father with their farm. So for everyone, the question is rising in their minds about what happens next. Do they stay where they are? Do they trade back? It's an open question for Linney. So she has gotten permission to walk through the woods to her friend's house, who's a young woman that's going to marry one of the Chandler boys, because she thinks if she could talk to her, she might say something that would help her know what she really wants. Okay, so here's Linney in the woods. I walked a long while, laying eyes on the leaves, letting my eyes do my thinking for me. All my questions about who would have me and what I really wanted were alive and lit up inside me. For the moment, it seemed like enough to carry the questions through all the spreading, shifting leaves. I was getting ready for something. There was no words to it. It was calm, almost restful. Then I saw one of the big poplars was crashed down across the path. I could see the trunk end from where I stood, the roots all torn up out of the ground. I couldn't see the top of the tree. It had fell into a mess of laurel. There was laurel all around that stand of poplar. That's why the path crooked around the way it did. But it wasn't just laurel around the poplars. That down tree was covered in poison ivy. All of them were. There wasn't no climbing over it. I couldn't believe it. I just stood there looking at it like if I looked long enough, it would not be so. I'd have to turn and go back, or else go straight on through the laurel. I knew laurel was a serious business. It's a bush, even though it gets as tall as trees in some spots. If you picture a stand of bare trees in winter, just the treetop part, how the branches look so dense and tangled together you can't see through them. I heard somebody telling stories at the post office once saying that's what it's like to be inside a laurel hell. It's like trying to walk through something like that. The branches are smaller, he said, but they're all around you, under your feet and over your head. Almost everybody's got a story about somebody they knew or their neighbor knew that got lost in a laurel hell. Sometimes the person gets out, sometimes they don't. There's new stories and old ones both. People coming out half dead or half crazy, or else just never seen again. I tried to keep a cool head, but I needed to keep walking. I tried to remember the map in the post office in Paintsville, and it seemed to me that the Marcus back field wasn't but a quarter mile or less straight ahead from where I was standing. Everybody said to don't even think about it. Daddy would say all the time, keep a cool head, Linney. I turned myself around to head back home, and everything started roiling around inside me. They would want Robbie back. Of course they would. They would let me go. If Pearl had let Robbie go, why not me? That was still the deal. I would have to go back home, and they would never make room for me to be anything other than what I'd always been in that house. Captured is what I'd be. No, I am not doing that. I thought I would throw up when I heard myself think those words, like I could say what was a done deal and what was not. My head was hot. Everything that had made me mad or hurt my feelings or scared me since the day all this started gathered itself on the path back the way I'd come and swarmed all over me like the poison ivy over those poplars. I squatted down, wrapped my arms around my knees, and cried. That's where Daddy's cool head got me, falling down in the road and crying. But just for a minute. I stood up and shook my head to clear it. I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes to stop crying. There was no path to follow, not the way I thought there would be, and I could not go back the way I came. I had to know some things for myself. I had to find out what I was going to do about it all. It wasn't about getting to Delcy anymore, needing somebody else's ears to be able to hear myself. The laurel had tripped me up long enough for everything, my whole story, everything I was afraid of, to catch up with me. When I looked at the laurel hell, I was looking at the shape of my life. I couldn't go back from it. I had to go through. The branches and twigs were bald looking, the way a woody vine looks. They looked to be the color of dry dirt when where the sun was getting through to them. Some was as skinny around as my little finger, some thick as a man's arm, where they come up out of the ground. Except for right where they were coming out of the ground, all of them looked jointed, twisted, crookedy, witchy. You don't scare me, I said out loud, using my voice to keep going. I am not stopping for you. I kept saying that every place that slowed me down, and there was getting to be more and more such places. You don't. I was raising my left arm up to push a big tangle out of my face when a cluster of little branches and twigs dropped down and hung a few inches from my face right at eye level. I jerked back. The branch had a knobby end that caused it to crook back in an upside-down V shape, and a knuckly twig had caught on it that stuck straight out. It was the shape of my bad hand, exactly. I stared. I was as scared as if I'd come on a mirror right there in the middle of a Laurel hell and seen a wild bad girl that couldn't be me. I knocked it away quick, but it was too late. It had already grabbed my stomach and given it such a twist I felt wrenched out of myself. When I let go of the tangle I'd been trying to push through, it whipped right back and slapped me across my face. It caught the corner of my right eye, and for a few seconds I couldn't open either eye. I froze, blind and stung and out in the middle of something, a hell way bigger than I'd figured on. My hands shook so bad I couldn't touch the corner of my eye to see if the skin was cut or if there was something in my eye. Finally, I thought to put my finger against my cheek to steady it and slide it up to my eye. There was a little drop of blood on it when I pulled it away. The skin stung, but I could blink without it hurting. I was just scratched. I closed my eyes again and took deep breaths, deep like a person who has been running for a long time, or like a person who is fixing to go under for a long swim across a big water. Please, I said. I didn't know to what. I opened my eyes. I wanted to see if I could still see the edge of the laurel where I'd come in. No. I looked down at my feet and lifted each one up to see if I left a track I could see. No. I wasn't even walking on ground anymore. It was layers and layers of twig and leaf litter. When I stood back up, I twisted around best I could without moving my feet. Nothing but laurel. It all looked the same everywhere I could see. I wished I'd thought to blaze a trail, but even if I tried to do that, from here on out, I'd never be able to look back and see it in all the broke-looking, tangled mess. I'd lost my sense of time, too. I had no idea how long I'd been inside, how far I'd gone. I looked up to see if I could tell anything by the sun, but the laurel had closed in over my head. Best I could tell from looking around me, it had clouded over, where no sun was getting through. It must be afternoon, I thought. It must be the rain fixing to come on. When I looked back down around me, still, nothing human as far as I could see, only wild, and everything started to look like hands. I heard something move between the ground and the layers of leaf litter. Nobody was expecting me at the Marcus place. I went crashing through wherever I saw an opening. Everything was brittle and dry, and it was a terrible racket in my ears that made me feel more lost and strange, but I couldn't slow down. It crackled and snapped and exploded, what it must sound like to be inside a fire. And I tried to go faster. I tripped and got up. I got snagged, like by a tripwire across my shins and neck, and fell backwards or forwards. My dress caught on roots. My hair got on hanging down claws of twigs. I had bits of leaf and twigs in my hair and in my shoes, but I was afraid to stop and shake it out. There was no end to it. till I caught both feet on a root of a branch and fell forward full on my face. It was so mean. It felt so mean. I didn't have anything in me to fight such a thing. I sat up and felt my face. My mouth felt numb for a second, then it hurt so bad. Why? I was asking, when I could get my mouth to move. Nothing answered. Nothing answered, and there was nowhere to go. I couldn't move. Part of me didn't even want to move. A terrible sleepiness come on me. I was all banged up and all used up every which way, but this was a different kind of sleep than come from being tired. This was a creature. It smelled my blood. It was coming for me. It was like a tunnel or something alive down in a tunnel, sucking me down from the inside, down into some kind of mud where I would never do another thing, take another step, think another thought. I practically felt my eyes roll back in my head. That's how sleepy I was. I was holding on, though. I had to make it out. I wanted out, and I couldn't care what happened to me if I could just make it out of this terrible hell. My whole body was hurting, seizing up the way it will when you've walked too far and then sat down too long. My face felt scalded. My palms burned. There's no need for all this, the thing in the tunnel said. It's too much. And anyway, you already know how it is. My head was falling forward and jerking back the way it does when you're falling asleep in a chair. I started to think maybe I wanted to lay down in that little nest of leaves and slip into the tunnel where none of this was really happening. And nothing would ever happen again. I let myself fall onto my side and curl up. I started having little flashes of dream, how I do when I know I'm falling asleep. And there she was, looking at me, the doe. Just her eyes, so dark, circled with white. Linney, a voice said through the dream. My name in a woman's voice I never heard before, and that was all. My name, clear as day, spoke from somewhere inside my head, and that I heard from somewhere that was not my ears. I rolled over onto my back. My face was wet. I pushed myself up onto my elbows. I will, I said to the voice. I was trying to hold on, but already I was forgetting the exact sound of it. I will, I said again. It took all I had and a little bit more to sit the rest of the way up. I knew the Laurel could win. I knew I might not get out of deals other people had made. But it was up to me whether I went to sleep. It was up to me what I said with my own mouth. I know there was all kinds of borning and dying, and still there were things I could choose. No, I said to the Laurel through the taste of blood in my mouth. You don't say. I'm going to stop there. As we've been talking about this reading, one of the things that we've been talking about, George Ella and I, is the way our books just are similar. And I think that, Linney is on a quest to know who she is. And in George Ella's book, she's on a quest to know who she is. But it's not exactly a hero's quest. It's a it's a feminine quest. It's a feminine journey and a feminine heroic task to sort the seeds and figure out, you know, who we really are and what we really want, and to be able to say it out loud. To say it out loud to the people and the things and the places that we sometimes have to leave in order to be who we're meant to be.
I was struck as you were reading, Diane, that Linney says no. She has to say it more than one time before she gets to the final, to the final center of herself, where she refuses to lie down and give up. And that feels very familiar to me. And it made me think that a writing prompt might be to write about your own, how you got out of moral hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
everybody has had that moment.
Yeah.
Where you realize that you've known better for a long time than to be or do or say whatever it is you've been being or doing or saying. But the voice to say it out loud is necessary to make it manifest, to really live that and not just know it, but to live it out in the world.
I was struck too by her by the many ways in which she feels hot there. I mean, there's the downed tree, there's the poison ivy. It seems to get bigger, it seems to grow, and as you describe it, it seems to, till finally she doesn't know where she's come from. That she doesn't, she's so turned around, and the views are so similar no matter where she looks, that and she's been snagged. It keeps snagging her. The nature of the laurel hell keeps grabbing her. And I wondered if you might say something about her bad hand, because that's something
that yes,
the listeners wouldn't have known.
She has a hand which didn't grow properly before she was born and didn't grow anymore after she was born. She doesn't really realize until her sister is born, and her sister has both hands that look the same, that there's anything different or wrong about her hand. She sees her parents have two hands the same, but she thinks that's just because they're fully grown, and she's waiting for her hand to grow the rest of the way. So at that point, she asks her mom, when's my hand going to grow? And her mother tells her, it's not. And from that moment on, it feels to her like something bad. And so she's in the habit of hiding it, keeping it in her pocket or holding her hands like this. I didn't know where that was coming from when I started, but I knew it in the way you know things sometimes. And I think as time went on, as I tried to work other fairy tales into the story, I realized it's partly a handless maiden story. And certainly she is a maiden who has whose father has made a deal, which is the end of her in that family. And so she, among the many things that the Chandlers teach her, the family that she goes to live with, Aunt Hesty tells her stories about from fairy tales and things like that. She, in her way, she gets her hand back, although it doesn't change physically.
Did you know from what point did you know that she was headed toward that Laurel Hill?
From one day to the next. I never thought of myself, I never thought I would write fiction. I envied people, I envied it, but I didn't feel it until I heard Linney's voice. And I wrote it straight as it is from start to finish. And from section to section, I didn't know what was going to happen next. So that was how that happened. I probably something came up that reminded me about Laurel and reminded me about Laurel Hells, and there's always a little catalyst spark somewhere. But I didn't know it was part of the story until really pretty soon before I wrote it. Maybe some days.
I think there's a force, a grace, not sure the word for it, but when you're working deeply, the things come that you need. You find them, you pick up something to read, there's something there. There's a dream.
Yeah.
There's an awareness of something on the horizon, but you don't know what it is, but you trust it'll be there when you get there.
Yeah. And there are things that I'm sure we all know that you carry around for years and years, just waiting for where that goes, that story or that dream or that image. And I had a lot of things like that went into Linney. I would be writing her story and I thought, oh, she dreamed about that fawn. Or there's that doe. There's that doe that I met, at the state park. There she was, there for Linney.
Been waiting to get in a novel.
Yeah. She'd waited a long time with no recognition at all.
Yeah. I know I had a woman standing on her head in Louisville forever before I got to her.
Yeah. And we've been George Ella and I too reading Ursula Le Guin again as we've been getting ready, and so the carrier bag theory of fiction, we lets you put all of those things together that you didn't know went together. They weren't anything by themselves, but when they got put in Linney's story, then there it was.
One of the things Le Guin says in that essay that really sounded like Linney's story to me is, a novel is a medicine bundle holding things in a particular powerful relationship to each other and to us. And so the medicine bundle
Mhm.
is a really
Yes.
rich image for that. And um,
Who among us has not taken a book like this? Not taken a book like this and held it like this, right where you would hold a medicine bundle,
true.
Yes.
and carried it around
Yeah.
and tugged on people's sleeves at the grocery store and said, "You need to read this book." Or you've wanted to. You want to stand on a corner and pass it out, um, because it's good medicine,
Yeah.
because it's on the side of life, and it can be good for people.
It helps.
Yes, it can help, and that's our job, right? That's our task. Ellen Voigt, when I was at Warren Wilson, very first lesson we got from her in our orientation was, when we got done, we were going to have to find places for our work, because she said, the work is not complete until it is received. And that's our duty, to help it get into the places that need it.
Once I was walking down the steps of my house, the front steps to get to the car, and I was carrying a baby in a diaper bag and bag with all my whatever. I was going to teach a community ed class. And as I was going down there, well, my watch fell off.
Of course. Of
Of
course.
course it did.
Off. I'm like, actually, I might have felt timeless, but I didn't. I felt
That might have been a little notification that maybe.
right. I just had this feeling of, strange as this is what I'm supposed to be doing. All of it, not just the writing, not just the mothering, not just the teaching, but every bit of it, as well as picking up my watch. I don't. They're wonderful moments when you feel congruent with what you feel called to do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. If only we could stay there, but everything keeps moving.
That's part of the lesson.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, I'm thinking that it's time for you to start.
Okay, and we will come back after I read. There'll be time for questions for both of us. So, okay, pick my book. That's Diane's book. Oh, I hid it from myself. Here it is. Don't you remember?
Hand you my copy.
You can't do that. Don't you remember is a mystery, essentially, and it was published first in 2007. But this is
hold it up where we can see it.
Oh yeah, is that got it? You see it?
Mhm. Yes.
And there's a mystery to the cover too, because I never knew I sent Don this picture. I never attempted to. And he found it and said, "This is the cover." I'm like, "Well, yeah, where did you get it?"
And it is the cover.
Journal page. It's a journal page. So this is essentially a mystery. And now it has new material at the end. about what has happened since, because of course it's not over. It's not a whodunit, but a who was it, or who was I? The whole book follows from something I remembered when I was 5, though I have no memory of remembering. So it's best to start with that story. Sorry, we had a little avalanche there. If I was 5, my brother Robert was almost 12, my mother 34, my father 36. We were en route from our home in the Kentucky mountains to Niagara Falls, where my parents had spent their honeymoon. It was 1954. If you turn on the radio, you might hear Giselle McKenzie singing The Wayward Wind. But I could sing it when the radio was off. I knew all the words. So as we drove that morning up Highway 17, I was singing. I was singing as we passed Painted Post. But all of a sudden I stopped. "Daddy," I said, "blow the horn under the underpass." "I would, sugar," he said, "but there isn't any underpass here." "There will be," I told him. Then we went around a curve, and there it was. Daddy laid on the horn. A mile or so later, Robert spotted a big building in the distance. "What's that?" he asked. "Can't tell from here," Daddy said. "Maybe we'll pass it." "It's a razor blade factory," I said. "What?" Mother asked, turning around in her seat. "It's a razor blade factory," I said again. "Where does she get such ideas?" Mother asked Daddy. But when we got close, they saw it was a razor blade factory. "Whoa," Robert said. "How did you know that?" But I was on another tack now. "Can we go see the fountain?" I asked. "I want to see the fountain." I was excited, bouncing up and down in the seat. "What fountain?" Daddy asked. "The one in the park." "What park?" Robert asked. "The one with rounded lights on a stem," I said. It may have been the lamps that got them. We didn't have anything like that in my hometown. Or maybe we were all in a trance by now. Or maybe Daddy was more curious than afraid. "You know how to get to this park?" he asked. "Turn up there," I told him. And as if I'd been giving directions in Bath, New York all my life, I guided him through the few turns till we pulled up at the park. "There's the lamps," Daddy said, "and the fountain," Mother put in. They let me run around the little park, my plump legs brown in plaid shorts, the white ruffle of my halter top flapping. I touched the lamp posts, the trees, the gazebo. Finally, I came to sit at the fountain. Robert was measuring the depth of the water with the stick. "Is this where you wanted to come, sugar?" Daddy asked. I said. It felt so good to be there. "How did you know about this place?" Mother asked. "I used to teach school here," I told him. Now, if we had just been driving through the town and I had said that, they might have laughed it off. But coming as it did after I'd predicted landmarks and led them to the park, it was, well, creepy. So after that little jaunt, they decided to get some lunch to steady their nerves. We ducked into a nearby restaurant. Right after we'd ordered, Mother got up to find the restroom. "Watch out for the steps," I said. We'd just begun to sip our drinks when she reappeared. "Let's go home," she said, coming down hard on the last word. "Gladys, honey, sit down," Daddy coaxed. "What's wrong?" "When I opened the door," she said, "the light was out and there were stairs straight down. No warning signs. I would have fallen if I want to get out of this place. I want to go home." "That's what we'll do then," Daddy said. Ironically, I don't remember any of this. I didn't even hear the story till I was in college, when I was driving with Robert and Betty, his wife, and for nostalgia's sake, asked Robert to blow the horn as we approached a concrete tunnel under the railroad. Remember when you wanted Dad to blow the horn and there wasn't any underpass? Robert asked. No, I said. And you told him there would be, and around the next curve there was? What? You were only 5, he said. I leaned forward over the front seat of his Ford Galaxy. Robert, what are you talking about? Don't you remember? He said. And then he wouldn't tell me. I had to wait till I saw my parents next. And the story totally freaked me out. I only told a few people about it over the next 25 years. But as more and more mysterious things began to happen to me, especially after the death of my father, I finally decided, okay, I'll just go back and face the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. My dear and very grounded friend, Ann Olson, went with me. We were there over a weekend in 1995. The fountain and park were there, of course, but I felt no connection to them. Since I've always been a seeker, on Sunday morning I tried several churches. The first service was morning prayer at St. Thomas Episcopal. No music, no wine, no connection. Just words dry as breadcrumbs in a chilly stone chapel. The next was at the First Presbyterian, which had brilliant windows, a Tiffany chandelier, and a robust choir taking arpeggios to heaven. I enjoyed it, but as a spectator only. The last stop was St. Mary's, the little Catholic church just down Morris Street from the square. The small sanctuary was crowded. I arrived as folks were standing to go to communion, singing too, their hands cupped in front of them to receive the body and the blood. I had to step past a man kneeling in the doorway to get in. It was as if I'd walked off the deep end of a pool and plunged into grief. It was over my head in an instant. I started sobbing. I, who never cry in public, who rarely cried in front of anyone, people turned to look at me, a stranger falling apart in the aisle of their church. But they were not as shocked as I was. I had no earthly idea why I was crying. Sorrow and loss welled up, huge and unstoppable. I tried to get hold of myself standing there without a story or a Kleenex in the line for communion. At the end of Mass, I asked the priest some questions, but having seen me distraught at the altar, he seemed very wary. Yes, they had a school, but it wasn't founded till 1961. No, there was no church historian. Excuse me, he said, I have to leave to say Mass at another church. Wrung out and bewildered, I walked back up Morris Street and met Anne at the park. After a morning of photography, she had the van loaded, ready to go. You won't believe what happened, I told her as we drove out of town. It was incredible. But I couldn't describe the total strangeness of being overtaken with feeling and not having a clue as to what it was about. It was as if my emotional self had been replaced when I walked into the sanctuary, but the new one, or perhaps the old one, was not hooked up to my understanding. It just expressed itself and was gone, leaving me struggling for words in the front seat of a Toyota Previa. They weren't my tears, I kept saying to Anne as we drove east. So whose were they, she asked. The school teachers, I guess. And who was she? I don't know, but I feel like I've got to find out. How? Anne asked. I wrestled with that question all fall and into the new year. I knew how to do research. I had gone through much academic trial and error and written a dissertation, and dug up my great-great-grandmother's Civil War story. But you need a name. You need a date. You need something. You can't just go back to a place and say, do I look like somebody your people might have known? You know? So the only thing I could think of after finally I thought, okay, there's past life therapy, which I did not believe in. I thought I was too, I don't know, intelligent, Christian, educated, skeptical, too something to fall for such an idea. But what was I going to do? I didn't have any other avenues. Now, they don't list past life therapists in the Yellow Pages. That's how long ago this was. Now, not in Lexington, Kentucky anyway. So I called the local Unitarian minister and asked if she knew one. Not only did she give me a name, she recommended this woman who was also a lawyer in town. I wrote down the information, but I was still torn, and it took me 2 more months to make that call. So I'm going to read you just a little bit of one of the sessions, which were recorded, but this is how I found out her name. And as Paula Raines, the therapist, told me, I went through several lifetimes, several people before I got to her. And I've since written a book of poems in the voices of those people, because they wouldn't let me alone after I wrote this book. But anyway, the Bath school teacher told her story out of order from different points in her life over 6 sessions. Her mother's name was Lucy. Her father's work was with machines. When he became ill, she left school to work in his office, and after he died, she took teacher training and stayed to take care of her mother. In great agitation, she tells of the turning point in her life. This is an excerpt from the transcript. It's raining very hard. Leaves are being torn off the trees. Where are you? I'm walking home from school. I don't know why I feel such sadness, but something is very heavy. I see clouds rolling in the sky. It's autumn and I feel things are being torn apart. Doors are shutting, like I'm walking away from something. What happens next? There's a package. There's something tied up with string. It's on the porch when I get home. What happens next? I take it in. The cat comes in too. There's a chill in the house. My mother's lying down. My father's died. Has he died recently or some time ago? Some time ago. And what's inside that package? It's a little book. It's in a case like a diploma or a passport. Do you know what this is? Is it something you have sent or asked for? I think I have to leave. I have to leave where? I have to leave home now. Okay, in looking at this thing that looks like a diploma or a passport, can you see a name on it anywhere? I think it says Joan or Jane. Does it have a last name on it? There's a word, Grace, but it might be Grace Joan or Jane Grace, I don't know. Okay, allow yourself to become aware of why it is you're going to be leaving. And as those memories begin to occur, just go on and report whatever you think or feel. I have to go because I can't breathe. I have to go because I stayed. If I don't go now, it will be too late to begin. But this is wrong. Wrong for me to do this. Where will you go? I'm going across the ocean. I saved my money. I'm going on a ship. What will you do when you get there? Probably I'll teach school. It's all I know to do. Okay, Go ahead and allow yourself to move forward or backward again in this lifetime to another significant event. And when you're there, simply talk about whatever you experience. I'm on the coast. I'm walking along among the rocks, sea spray. It's a beautiful gray day. It's full of the sound of water and birds crying, and the steep sand, rocks, and little flowers, little plants that are wonderful colors. You think first it's all just green, and then you look and it's 100 colors. Do you know where you are? This is Wales. Well, in about 3 years, I followed her to Wales. Years full of research, which resulted in finding a Jane Grace in the 1870 census in Bath, New York. That search is chronicled in the first 3/4 of the book. Then I let Jane tell her story. So this is early in her part of the book. I still see him. Here I sit, a world away, a stack of my students' copybooks on the table before me, and I see Marshall's hands, large but fine-boned, his nails flat, not rounded like mine, his wedding ring gleaming. I see the knob of his wrist where the shirt cuff is slid up. He is reaching across the table for my hand, and I am stunned. Marshall's eyes are so blue, and his thin face is caught between joy and anguish. Down the hall, Caroline, his wife, is in bed, as she has been off and on for 6 years, with bouts of intense pain and paralysis. I have brought soup and flatbread for their supper. This is my 3rd turn at carrying in the food. Each time Marshall has accepted it graciously, asked about my students, my hope of spring flowers, he loves a garden too, and my mother's health. This day, because of rain falling in sheets, and because his tea kettle whistled as he came to the door, he invited me in for tea. Knowing Marshall from the school office and admiring his compassion, his care of Caroline, his never indicating by word or gesture the shell his life has become, I did not hesitate. Thank you, I said. I am a bit chilled. So we sat, sharing the amber tea, breathing in bergamot, eating scones with a modicum of jam, as he put it. We were speaking of our town, when suddenly he sighed and said, "We are alike, you know," and reached for my hand. His touch cast over my whole being an invisible net of stars. Not just my body felt this heat, this illumination. In an instant, my wandering became a path, a journey to this moment. I put down my cup, reached across the stones on their cobalt plate, across my life islanded, and took his other hand, the one with the ring. And the next chapter, I'll only read the first 3 sentences. And then, after a little rapture, I was with child, a spinster, 43. Never told me in all the past life sessions about the baby. She didn't tell me. And then after in the session where we went through her death, after that, Paula said, don't leave her. Don't leave her soul. Go with her soul. And so I tried, however you do that, I tried to do that. And then Paula said, "Is there something we should know that she didn't tell us?" And the voice my voice said there was a baby. So that story.
Beautiful, George Ella. I think one of the things I know about you is you invite those voices. You invite those voices into your life and follow them. And this book is just a monumental example of what I know that you do on a day basis. Sit down with your journal and say, does anybody want to talk? And they do, they do. And I think the lesson that I really take most from that is to listen and to trust, which has nothing to do with knowing for sure.
No.
Because you have to be willing to engage with the mystery if you want to be on the inside of it just a little bit.
I didn't say that there were many little laurel hills along the way.
Yes.
Places I almost gave up, places I got lost, things that matched, things that didn't match, paths I went down that, ended at the boat ramp, that kind of thing. And not her boat ramp, but wouldn't let me go. It just wouldn't.
Yeah.
And when I went back later to Bath, there was more. There's we just live in mystery.
We do.
We do.
Yes.
And to be willing to know that and know that that's as much as we can know is a difficult calling. But it gives us our work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And each other.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And those invisible ones, like Linney, who trust us with their story.
Yes.
And you get used to living with invisible people, and real people can be hard to deal with. I mean, and whatever, when you're in your poem writing or whatever it is you're writing, and then you come out and then
Yes.
There's bacon.
It's kind of a good time to come out, but it can be a shock.
Yes.
I'm sure some of you all know that have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoa, look what's here.
Yes.
Does
I
any
used to come home from residencies and I would just be furious when somebody talked to me. It's like, are you talking to me?
I wonder if any of you all have a mystery, a thing you can't explain, either in your own experience or in your family, where something is just so synchronistic. That it's hard. Yeah.
I shared this with you a long time ago, George Ella, that old house that my nephew was raising. And I had been through the house. It was way over 150 years old. And we had had lunch and I went out to the front of the house. And when I sat down on the stone steps, I looked out over the ponds and I thought, what a beautiful, beautiful setting. But then I was struck that it was not, it was a terrible place. And I felt I felt a woman's presence and that she was afraid for her life there. So I wasn't long about getting off the steps.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then I went to my nephew and I said, do you know anything about this place? And he knew a little bit. And I told him what had happened to me. And he said, well, they said that one of the couples that had lived there, that the man beat the woman all the time. So I don't know, but it was very scary. So that's the only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
There it is, though.
Mhm.
You were in that thin place for a minute,
Mhm. Mhm.
being the permeable kind of person you are. You felt it.
Well, it's been a beautiful reading. I really appreciate. I love both of your books, and I really appreciate your reading for us, especially together. You are the dynamic duo. So,
We are.
Diane, I want to thank you for Linney. I've read your book twice, and I love her so much. And the reading you did today, I wrote in the chat, was so beautifully paced and really different from how I read. And and I realized I was rushing. I was rushing because I wanted her to get out of there. And
Yeah.
and the way you read it made it much more painful and deep and nuanced. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Molly.
that's great, Molly. Yes,
It's nice to see you.
yeah, yeah. I think that both of you have, well, Linney is one of the strongest narrative voices I have ever met. And George Ella, I don't really call it a narrative voice because you really are channeling. But anyway,
And it's your voice.
it's yes, and
Yeah.
it's also Jane Grace.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to read next month on the 1st, which is in bulk, uh, with Phil Terman. I'll be reading new poems, post-stroke poems. So, so,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so, so I hope you could all make it. And then I think we may be kind of expanding this reading series, maybe not doing a monthly, but a quarterly, and expanding the readers. So not just drawing from Saddle Road Press readers, but from others.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I will see you next month, and thank you both again. That was really lovely.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you all for being here. It means a lot.
Yes, thank you all for being here.